Okay, cool. So that's really interesting, kind of hearing about the sessions that you do throughout the week. Um, Thinking about more from a technical perspective, um, are there any kind of cues that really resonate or that you feel are important, things that you need to be thinking about in order to get the best out of yourself when you're running?
Yeah, I think there's all kind of cues that I think about or like people think about all the time. I think it's important to have like one or two cues. I think everybody should. And if you have more than that, I mean, you're probably thinking about too much. You're gonna mess everything up. But yeah, for me personally, I like to have my cues like based on like exercises or like movements. Like I don't want to think about, okay, I need to have my knee forward. I want to
Right.
think about like doing like a lunge or something
Okay.
like that. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Like a
Okay.
movement.
Yeah.
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 So it
Yeah.
just feels like more natural. It's like I just want to do this. And then
Yeah.
everything else is gonna feel like more natural. This doesn't feel forced.
Yeah.
So for me, like one thing that I like to think about, I when I'm in the blocks right now, I think about doing a block clean, which is
Okay.
if you don't know what a block clean is, basically it's a hand clean. If you don't know what a hand clean is, then
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
like Google it or something. I don't know. But you pretty much have the bar with the weights on it.
Hmm.
You have it on a block, and you have the bar like maybe like right above your knees, and you start from like a set position, and you pop it up and do a clean up to here, and then you reset and you pop it again. So thinking about that when I'm coming out of the blocks, it makes me think about not like dropping my hips and so much taking so long. It makes me think about just popping straight out, just like exploding out, just from a set like still position. That's one
Yeah.
cue that I'm thinking about right now.
I
So
really like that, and I guess as well the other thing that it kind of gives it gives those exercises that you're doing in the weight room more meaning as well, right?
absolutely, yeah. Everything I do in the weight room is applicable. That's a good word.
Yeah,
Applicable
I like it.
to the track. Yeah. So if
Yeah,
it doesn't feel like it's going to help me on the track, I'm not really for it. And
yeah.
I'll tell my lifting coach that too. And
Okay.
we're totally on board with that. And everything we do has a purpose. And we all know that. And that kind of helps us, buy into it a little more.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I think it's great that you got a lifting coach that's kind of so, strength coach that's so receptive to those ideas, and
Mhm.
you have kind of that again going back to what you were saying before, but like that trust, that communication
Yeah.
between your team and everybody's on the same page. I think that's so
Mhm.
helpful.
Yeah, it
Um,
absolutely is.
so that's a great cue for acceleration. I don't know if you have anything for max velocity that you use, then like if you're comfortable sharing it, please share it. I don't know if you
Yeah.
do.
Yeah. So max velocity, it's a little bit it's a little bit more tricky because it's a little bit more of a like it's hard to replicate that in a movement.
Hmm.
But one thing that my coach really tells me to do, and I think everybody should do it, is just hammer the nail,
Okay.
which this pretty much means like um and it's not like a movement like before, but it's still a cue that I think about sometimes. It's when you get your knee up, you want to hammer your foot straight into the ground. Just put force straight down.
Hmm.
Just hammer that nail. Just pop, 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 and not just, you know,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
apply a lot of force really quick, get off the ground, and just cover some ground, man. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. 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 No,
That's
I
one
do.
thing that I've done that helps me out with my max velocity.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. That's really great, and I hope that there's any young listeners that are kind of thinking about ways that they can improve to kind of they listen to that and they take it to the track and they try it because I
Yeah,
think that's kind of that's the vision I had for the podcast, just helping them to
yeah,
get some ideas what guys at the top level like you are doing, and yeah, I think
mm,
that's really helpful.
yeah,
Um, so one of the things that you said earlier was that made sure that you weren't doing anything stupid away from the track. I think that was the word that you used, not doing
yeah,
anything stupid.
yep.
So um, I'm interested to know like how closely you kind of monitor your recovery and things like sleep and nutrition. I know that like wearable fitness trackers and stuff are quite popular now, so we can monitor you can monitor your sleep, but at the
Mhm.
same time, I know that some people find that that becomes a little bit overwhelming. Is there anything that you're doing in order to make sure that, like we said, those three high workouts that you're recovered and you're absolutely ready for them?
Yeah, absolutely. Honestly, for me personally, I think people do way too much with recovery.
Hmm.
Honestly, for me personally, I feel like the best thing you can do after a hard workout is go home, get a big meal, get a steak, get some broccoli, get some rice, and get to bed. You know what I'm saying? If you get 8 hours and get enough food in you, get the right food in you, that's the best thing you can do for recovery. And I'm not saying that all the other stuff isn't good,
Hmm.
but if I did that and then compared that to myself when I'm just coming home, sleeping and eating right, then I don't really believe there's going to be too much of a difference there. Like I feel like you can still get really good recovery by just coming home and doing what you're supposed to do here.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like you've read my mind with that. I feel like the other things like the massage guns, the Normatec boots,
Mhm.
stuff like that. I feel like that's the icing on the cake. But the cake, like you say, is proper nutrition, proper sleep.
Exactly.
I'd probably put
Yeah.
hydration in there as well, but making
Yeah.
sure that's kind of
Exactly.
getting you your 99% of the way there. And then you may be able to get the extra 1% by, I don't know, doing your ice baths, using your massage gun, using the recovery boots or whatever. Um, but I think as well in this day and age, I sound like an old man now, but like in this day and age with
Yeah.
social media, like I think it's easy to miss that. It's easy to miss the basics,
Yeah.
do the stuff that looks cool on social media with like I say,
Mhm.
the massage guns and that. So
Yeah. And one thing that like for me, like I'm not reading this stuff on in like books or I'm not like a scientist or anything, but this is just like my personal experience. I take note of this stuff. I take notice of like how things make me feel,
mhm.
and I kind of just make decisions based off of that information.
Yeah, okay, okay. So
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's for me there's definitely a lesson in that as well. It's like to monitor what you're doing and how you're feeling, and because
Yeah.
that's just data, and then that allows you to make more objective decisions
Mm,
about what you're going to change, and if I do this, this is how I should feel. And if you're not recording that, then it's much more difficult to.
exactly. Yeah. A lot of people, especially young people, like I get a lot of people in my DMs like asking me how to get fast and like what they need to do to take them to the next level. I'm like, dude, the number one thing you can do to like take yourself to the next level is just figure it out yourself. Figure out what works for you, and if you can ask all these different people, but what works for me is probably not going to work for you. Like,
Yeah,
you know, copy and paste. So
yeah,
you kind of just have to figure it out on your own, try some things, as long as you're really honestly, it, to tell you the truth, as long as you're doing something, it's going to be pretty beneficial. Just staying consistent and just going and running. Just go sprint.
yeah,
If you go sprint every day, you're going to get faster. I mean, that's just how it is. And
yeah.
just don't think about it too much. I mean, it's pretty simple when it comes down to it.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know what I'm
and
saying?
I completely agree. I do.
Yeah.
I completely get it. I think that it almost sounds like a cop out when people say, "Oh, you kind of do what works for you," and but I think it's so right. I think it's so true.
Yeah.
Like
Which
I
it
could,
definitely can be a cop out. I mean, I've seen it like that too. So
yeah,
you're definitely right with that.
but I think that like it might be that I read your workouts and I try and copy them, I get hurt, but and so I need to figure out what's gonna keep me healthy, for example,
Hmm.
and I think that's so important. And like you say, I think it is pretty simple. I think it's like it's really easy to overcomplicate it. And I think with the wealth of information that we have now, with the internet, with social media, with me putting the podcast out as well, because it's easy to kind of get confused and just think, oh well, he's doing this, so this is what I need to do. But he's doing this, so I also need to do this. But
Right.
I think ultimately, exactly what you're saying, as long as you're sprinting pretty fast, quite regularly, and you're making sure you're recovered enough to do it, then you're probably 90, 95, 99% of the way there, right?
Yeah. I mean, you're gonna get fat. It's really not that hard. It's just keep it simple.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Um, so this is my last question, and this is sort of like a little bit of a fun one if you like geeking out on track workouts and stuff like that. But what's do you have a favorite and a least favorite track workout? So have you got one where you know that you're doing this workout and you're excited, you kind of wake up in the
Yeah.
morning like, yes, it's this workout today, I can't wait to get stuck in. And then do you have one where you wake up in the morning and think, oh no, not that, Coach Woody, I don't want to do that today?
Yeah, so our block days are so fun. We line up right next to each other, dude. Everybody comes like locked in. We're
Right.
like all the workouts are just so intense and it's so fun. Like nobody's really tired. Like you don't get really tired from blocks. Like a
Uh-huh.
block day, you're not really tired. Your legs might get tired, but you're really just I mean, you're just technical. You know what I'm
Is
saying?
there
So
trash talking going on? If you're all lined up, is there like a little
hey,
bit of
there's
smack being
definitely been
spoken?
some trash talking. Hey, our group gets active with that for sure.
Okay.
But yeah, that's definitely my favorite workout. I don't have to get tired. I don't
Yeah.
really. for me, okay, this sounds really bad. Okay, hear me out. Like
I'll hear you out. No
I
judgment.
I don't really like to run, to be honest with you. I
Okay.
don't really like to run.
Okay.
Like sprinting is so good for me. I don't have to get too tired.
Hmm.
Like when my lungs are hurting, that sucks for me. Like I
Yeah.
hate that.
Right.
I don't enjoy that a lot. But sprinting, like I can improve myself without really feeling that. I can
Yeah.
just kind of focus on like getting stronger, getting more powerful, and that really kind of is pretty much a block day is. So that's why it's my favorite day.
Okay.
And yeah, so to go along with that, my worst favorite workout would be like the longer stuff for
Okay.
sure. Yeah, like I think uh when I first got to Iowa, we did like we do it's called Walnut Ridge. It's like a 300-meter hill. And oh my gosh, man, it is brutal.
Yeah, it sounds miserable already.
Yeah, yeah. So we'll do those, and that's just awful. When I was at Indian Hills, this is the worst of the worst. When I was
Go
at Indian Hills, we don't have an indoor track.
on.
Okay,
Right.
we're Indian Hills, you're junior college, you don't have the funds, whatever. So we would go outside. Right now it's -14 right now here, and there's a foot of snow on the ground. It would not surprise me if we were out there today.
Right.
Like
Okay.
we were out there all the time in the snow. There was one day we were doing 200 repeats in the snow on concrete on the road because it was obviously paved, so that's where we went.
Yeah.
So we did 200 repeats. I was throwing up, and I was like totally checked out. I was thrown up, and I was outside. It was cold. Legs are cramping. It's probably the most miserable experience of my whole life.
Yeah.
That burned into my brain. That's probably the worst workout I've ever done.
Okay. Yeah, I'm still waiting for somebody to come on here and say that like this is they like those workouts. Like typically, like everybody that
Oh
asks this,
man,
it's either blocks or flies or something like that comes out as the first one. Nobody's ever said like a really like tough like lactic type workout where it's like 300s or hill like long hills or whatever. So
yeah,
maybe one day I'll get someone, but
yeah.
yeah.
Good luck with that. Yeah,
Yeah, I think I'm
that
gonna do.
definitely is not the best part about track.
Um, but I think it sounds like from what you were saying about the things that you like to do, you like sprinting, you like the stuff that's explosive, the lifting and all that kind of stuff. It sounds like you're in the right place. You know, we spoke before about like how the emphasis is placed upon the quality and um from my understanding at least, I don't think all the college programs are like that. You know, there are definitely some more old
Mhm.
school approaches going on where you like the bread and butter workouts are like you say 200s on the road in the snow running those
Yeah,
long hills. So it sounds like you've definitely found a place that kind of fits what you enjoy and helps to kind of bring the best out of yourself.
yeah, definitely. And I think it just comes down to the trust between the athlete and the coach, and there's mutual respect we have for each other. One thing about Coach Woody, this is interesting about his coaching philosophy too. I've never really known like a coach that does this,
Hmm.
but what he does is he'll guide you, right? He'll guide you to be successful, but he's not gonna push you across the bridge. Like
Okay.
we have to do it on our own.
Hmm.
Like if we're to the point where he can just not show up and we'll go there and we'll have a good workout.
Right.
Like we're to the point where we know what we need to do. He's there if he needs us or if we need him.
Hmm.
And that's just I think this allows us to have a better understanding of what we're doing.
Hmm.
And obviously he doesn't just miss. I mean, he's there all the time.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you know what I mean though? He's a very good coach in the context of he's not going to force you to do something. Um and he's built a culture where everybody that goes to practice wants to be there. Everybody wants to be better. And I think that just puts everybody in a position to be successful.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it sounds a little bit like what you were saying at Indian Hills, that kind of like that you create that environment, then everybody gets uplifted by
Mhm.
it. And I think that's really interesting and important what you were saying about uh, I felt almost as a coach like my job was to almost try and make myself redundant. So I'm creating like self-sufficient athletes that if for any reason, like you say, I can't be there, the coach can't be there, not that it ever happened, but if that were to happen, then they're able to do the workout by themselves.
Exactly.
They know what they're doing. And I think that
Mhm.
especially like once you kind of, once you get to the pro level, then certainly it's not possible for the coach to be at every single meet that you're doing, because a coach
Right.
might have one athlete competing somewhere in Europe whilst another athlete's competing somewhere in Asia, somebody else is competing in the US, all in the same weekend, and you can't be in three places at once. So you need to kind of
Right.
create an athlete that's able to kind of, like I say, be self-sufficient and kind of manage themselves in those
Mhm.
situations.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All right, Kalen, I just want to finish off by saying thank you again so much for joining us on the podcast today. I think the information that you've given is fascinating. I think it's so interesting. I'm sure people are going to find it helpful. And I don't feel like you need it, but I want to wish you luck for the rest of the 2024 season. It's off to a great start, and yeah, I'm excited to kind of follow your progress for the rest of the indoor and then obviously into the outdoor season as well.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate everything.
My
So,
pleasure. And sorry, just one more quick question. Are we expecting to see you at Olympic trials this year? Are you able to tell us that or not yet?
hey, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. Looking forward to it. All right, Kalen. Thank you once again. And yeah, all the best for the rest of your season. Okay.
Yep, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.